Some things on the internet are not meant to be found. They lurk in the shadows, waiting.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shadow Internet. Here, we explore the stories people never search for, the ones that only whisper in the dead of night. Last night, at the edge of the forest, I heard my own name. At first, I thought it was just fatigue, but the voice came again. I need help. The same voice. It could be around you too, watching, observing, and tonight, you'll witness stories that were deleted, rules no one explains, encounters that people never share. Remember, if you ever hear your name in the darkness, or a voice that sounds just like you, do not answer. Welcome to the Shadow Internet, where every whisper hides a secret, and every shadow remembers your name. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it back. That's not drama. That's logistics. I'm crouched behind my truck right now, mud soaking through my jeans, breath burning in my chest, while something in the trees keeps saying my name. Not shouting, not whispering, just my voice, perfectly copied, drifting between the trunks like it belongs there. Evan, it called a minute ago. Then again, you know that feeling when your phone rings in the middle of the night and your stomach drops before you even check the screen? It's like that, except the caller is standing 50 feet away, wearing the forest like a skin. I made the mistake of answering once. Never do that. There are rules no one tells you. Rules you only learn after someone disappears, after search parties give up, after a family puts up flyers that fade in the rain. Most people don't get to share what they learned. They just become another quiet gap in a town that pretends nothing happened. If this recording survives, it's because I wanted someone to know what hunts out here. Skinwalkers don't rush you. They wait. They listen. They collect details. They learn your voice, your walk, the way you say someone's name when you're tired. Then they give it back to you, twisted just enough to pull you closer. It's doing it again. My own voice is calling from deeper in the woods now, sounding impatient, like I'm late for something important. I can hear branches moving, slow and deliberate. Whatever it is, it's circling. So listen carefully. If someone you recognize calls to you from the dark, don't answer. If something sounds like help, don't follow it. And if you ever hear yourself speaking where you know you aren't standing, run. I don't have much time. I'll explain how this started, how a normal delivery route turned into this nightmare, and why I should have left town months ago. But first, I need you to understand one thing. This wasn't random. It never is. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever, if you're smart enough. Back then, life was simple in the way small towns pretend to be simple. I drove the same roads every night. Headlights cutting through fog and cornfields, radio low, thermos of burnt coffee rattling in the cup holder. I was a delivery contractor for 3 counties, hauling medical supplies, groceries, and whatever else people didn't want to wait for. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and it let me be alone with my thoughts. Our town had one diner, one blinking traffic light, and neighbors who still waved from porches. Mrs. Calderon left zucchini bread on my doorstep. Old Tom at the gas station always asked about my mom. Kids rode bikes until sunset. Nothing felt dangerous. Nothing felt hidden. The woods were just woods. I'd grown up hiking those trails, fishing the creek, daring friends to walk barefoot through the moss. Deer crossed the highway like they owned it. Coyotes yipped at night. Owls called from the tree line. The forest had a rhythm, and after a while, you stopped noticing it. Then the rhythm changed. It started with the animals. Roadkill stopped appearing. Birds vanished from the power lines. Even the insects went quiet, like someone had reached down and turned the volume knob to 0. On my routes, I'd slow down without realizing it. Windows cracked, waiting for the usual sounds to come back. They never did. People changed too, but in smaller ways. Conversations ended early. Doors closed faster. A few houses went dark and stayed that way. When I asked about the Peterson place, the clerk at the hardware store pretended she hadn't heard me. I started keeping the radio on just to hear another human voice. Sometimes I'd park at the overlook above town and sit there longer than I should have, watching porch lights blink on one by one, convincing myself this was still home, still normal, still safe. One night, while I was loading boxes behind the clinic, Mark leaned against the wall beside me and lit a cigarette. "You ever notice how nothing makes noise anymore?" he asked. I laughed it off, said maybe winter was coming early. He didn't smile. "Yeah," he said, exhaling smoke. That's what I thought too. After that, folks stopped meeting my eyes. If I brought up the quiet, they changed the subject. If I asked about missing pets, they shrugged. No one wanted to be the first person to say something was wrong. I told myself it was stress, isolation, too many night shifts. But every time I drove past the tree line, I felt watched. I didn't know it yet, but something had already started paying attention to me. And once it does that, once it learns your routes and habits, there's no going back. That's when the first truly strange thing happened. I remember thinking I'd laugh about all this later, tell stories over coffee, maybe apologize for being paranoid, because that's what normal people do. Or so I believed. Then I first saw it just past mile marker 17, where the road bends and the trees press close like they're listening. My headlights caught movement on the shoulder. At first I thought it was a deer, frozen in that stupid, suicidal way they do when a car approaches. I slowed, leaned forward, ready to honk. Then it stood up. Not reared, not startled. Stood. Its back legs straightened like a person finding their balance. The front ones hung too long, joints bent the wrong way, wrists twisted inward like they'd forgotten what they were supposed to be. Its head tilted, slow and curious, and the light hit its eyes. They weren't reflective. They were dark, flat, empty in a way that made my skin crawl. I remember whispering, "Nope," to myself, because that's what you do when your brain hits something it doesn't have a file for. For a second, neither of us moved. The world felt suspended, like even the air was holding its breath. Then it ran, not like an anima. Its limbs moved out of sequence, one side lagging behind the other, body pitching forward too far, correcting at the last second. It covered ground in these awkward, lurching bursts, crossing the road and vanishing into the trees with a sound like wet leaves being dragged across concrete. I sat there with my foot on the brake, heart punching against my ribs. After a minute, I laughed. A short, shaky sound. Probably a sick deer, I told myself. Or a mangy dog with bad hips. Rural roads are full of weird stuff. You see enough of it, you start explaining things away just to keep moving. I finished my route on autopilot. Back at my place, I microwaved leftovers and scrolled through my phone, half watching a true crime video while I ate. I didn't tell anyone what I'd seen. It already felt unreal, like something my brain had invented to fill the silence. Around 2 in the morning, I heard scratching. Not loud, not frantic, just slow, steady claws against wood. I muted the TV and waited. It came again, deliberate this time, tracing a line along the bottom of my front door. I grabbed the baseball bat from behind the couch, because apparently that's what passes for self-defense when you live alone and make bad choices. I told myself it was probably a raccoon, or a neighbor's dog, something normal. "Go away," I called, trying to sound annoyed instead of terrified. The scratching stopped. I stood there for a long moment, bat raised, listening to my own breathing. When nothing else happened, I shook my head and let out a nervous laugh. "Great, Evan," I thought. "You need more sleep." I locked the deadbolt, checked the windows, and went to bed with the hallway light on like a child. I would learn later that this was a warning. that the thing by the road had followed me home, that predators don't always attack right away. Sometimes they observe. Sometimes they map your routines. Sometimes they wait until you're comfortable again. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, I had this strange sense of being evaluated, measured against something older and patient. I told myself I was being dramatic. I closed my eyes. Outside, somewhere beyond the fence, something shifted its weight and learned where I lived. I didn't hear it leave. That was the part that bothered me most. No footsteps, no rustling brush, no familiar sounds returning to the night. Just absence. The kind that presses against your ears until you become aware of your own pulse. I lay there replaying the shape of it in my head, trying to remember how its spine curved, how its shadow didn't quite match its body, promising myself I'd check for tracks in the morning. Tomorrow. And that was when it stopped being a coincidence. I woke to Mark's voice outside my window. "Evan, hey man, you up?" It took a second for my brain to catch up. Mark never came over unannounced, especially not before sunrise. I checked my phone. 3:41 a.m. The house was still, hallway light casting a weak yellow line under my bedroom door. "Mark," I called back, already swinging my legs over the bed. "Yeah," he said, closer now. "I need help. Something's wrong with my truck." I moved toward the front of the house, barefoot on cold tile, bat still leaning against the wall where I'd left it. Through the peephole, I saw his silhouette by the porch steps, shoulders slumped, head bowed like he was embarrassed to be asking. I unlocked the deadbolt. That's when I noticed his hands. They were too long. Not dramatically, not enough to scream monster, just enough that my stomach tightened. His fingers hung past where they should have ended, knuckles swollen, joints bulging like they'd been assembled in the wrong order. "Hey," I said, keeping the chain on. "What happened?" He lifted his head. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "They won't stop making noise," he said. "What?" "The woods," Mark replied. "They won't stop." I closed the door. Hard. My heart was racing now, ears ringing. I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming that I'd almost done something irreversible. From outside, Mark laughed. It sounded exactly like him. "You okay in there?" the voice asked. "I just need a jump." That's when it said my name. Perfectly. Not shouted. Not pleading. Just casual, like we were standing in line at the gas station. I didn't answer. I don't know why. Call it luck. Call it whatever part of your brain still works when everything else is short-circuiting. I stayed silent, holding my breath until my lungs burned. After a while, the porch creaked. Footsteps moved away. I didn't sleep after that. By afternoon, I'd convinced myself it was stress, exhaustion, a trick of shadows and fear. I went to my mom's place across town, helped her carry groceries, fixed a loose hinge on her back door. Normal things. Safe things. We were halfway through lunch when I heard her voice from the hallway. "Evan." I froze, fork hovering in midair. My mom was sitting across from me. She was chewing. "Did you say something?" she asked. The voice came again, softer this time. "Evan, honey, can you help me?" My mom went pale that we didn't move. We just listened as footsteps crossed the hardwood, slow and careful, stopping right outside the kitchen. "Mom," I whispered. She shook her head, eyes filling. That was when the rules started forming. Never answer your name at night. Never follow familiar voices into darkness. Never assume something loves you just because it sounds like it does. The thing in the hallway tried again, cycling through tones, emotions, memories. It begged. It scolded. It laughed. Every version was flawless. I grabbed my mom's car keys and pulled her toward the back door. We didn't look behind us. We ran barefoot through the yard, into the neighbor's garage, and locked ourselves inside until sunrise. Listen to me. If someone you love calls for help outside, don't go. If a voice uses your memories against you, don't respond. You start looking for stories that sound too familiar and rules no one wants to write down. And that's when I discovered how many people had vanished after hearing their own name. I remember thinking about all the missed calls on my phone, the unanswered messages, the way small towns close ranks around uncomfortable truths. Somewhere out there were others who had heard the same impossible voices, who had opened doors they shouldn't have, who never got the chance to warn anyone. That realization settled in my chest like wet cement, heavy and permanent, and I knew whatever this was, it wasn't finished with me. Yet I spent the next 3 nights barely sleeping, parked in front of my laptop like it might explain what my life had become. I searched everything: local forums, archived message boards, deleted threads pulled from cache sites that looked like they hadn't been updated since dial-up. Most of it was garbage: teenagers telling ghost stories, bored conspiracy types connecting dots that weren't there. But buried in between were posts that felt different. Specific, quiet, written by people who didn't sound like they were trying to scare anyone. They sounded tired. I started keeping notes. Usernames, dates, locations, patterns. Every story followed the same shape. First the silence, then the animals leaving, then something standing wrong in the road. After that, voices. Always voices. Some posts ended abruptly, mid-sentence, like the writer had been interrupted. Others were followed by moderators locking the thread at the request of authorities. A few vanished entirely. Dead links. Missing archives. It was like someone was sweeping digital footprints off the floor. That's when I realized this wasn't just happening in my town, that I found references to other cases scattered across platforms. People joked about stairs in the woods like it was a meme. Others warned newcomers, half seriously, half sarcastic, to never whistle back. There were inside jokes I didn't understand yet, shared language between survivors who had learned the same lessons the hard way. Every time someone got too detailed, the post disappeared. I messaged a user named Hollow Signal who had commented on 3 separate threads before they were removed. I didn't expect a reply. He answered within minutes. "You still alive?" "Barely," I typed back. He sent a single file. Screenshots. Police reports with names blacked out. Maps with clusters circled in red. He didn't explain much. Just enough to make my stomach drop. "They don't like attention," he wrote. "Patterns attract them." "What are they?" I asked. There was a long pause. "They spread when acknowledged." I stared at that sentence for a long time. He explained that disappearances were being quietly reclassified. Hunting accidents. Mental health crises. People who just left. Families pressured into staying quiet. Small departments overwhelmed. Larger ones uninterested. The stories that survived did so because no one knew what category to file them under. Monsters don't fit paperwork. He warned me not to document too much, not to use real names, not to tag locations. He said some things learned to follow digital trails the same way they followed footprints. Before he logged off, he sent one last message. "If you hear it mimic someone you love, it already knows you. If it starts using your own voice, it's closer than you think." Then his account went dark. I closed my laptop and sat there listening to my refrigerator hum, trying to convince myself this was still rational, still solvable. But the deeper I looked, the clearer it became that there was a system behind the chaos. Something old, something organized, something that had been allowed to operate in the negative space between jurisdictions and belief. And the worst part was realizing that by searching for answers, I had probably announced myself. Because whatever was happening out there wasn't finished teaching me its rules, and I had a feeling the next lesson wouldn't wait for daylight that went to the house, because that's where the reports kept pointing. A burned-out ranch place at the edge of county land, half swallowed by weeds. windows boarded with plywood that had gone gray from rain and sun. Kids used to party there. After the Petersons vanished, nobody did. Even the graffiti had stopped. I parked down the road and walked the rest of the way, boots crunching on gravel too loud in the quiet. The air felt thick, like before a storm, except the sky was clear. Inside, it smelled like rot and old smoke. My flashlight beam swept over collapsed drywall, broken bottles, a sofa turned on its side. Then I saw the handprints. They were on the ceiling, dozens of them, human-shaped, darkened with grime, smeared as if something had crawled upside down across the plaster. My throat tightened. I followed the prints into what used to be a bedroom. That's where the bones were. Small animal bones arranged in circles, delicate and deliberate. Ribs interlocked. Skulls facing inward. Whoever did it had taken their time. Okay, I whispered to myself. Okay, Evan, you're not supposed to be here. My own voice answered from the hallway. You already are. Every hair on my body stood up. It sounded exactly like me. Same tired cadence. Same slight hitch on my name. I turned slowly, flashlight shaking. Mark, I tried, even though I knew better. My voice laughed. No, it said, you. Footsteps creaked in the next room. Slow, testing the floor. I backed into the bedroom, heart hammering, trying to remember every warning I'd read. Never mirror it. Never give it your full name. I just want to talk, my voice said from beyond the doorway. You've been looking for answers. I swallowed. Who are you? It paused, like it was considering how much truth I could handle. You don't need that part yet. Something brushed the doorframe. I caught a glimpse of movement, a shadow stretching too far along the wall. I know about your mom. It continued gently. I know where you keep your spare key. I know you still check your phone for messages from people who stopped replying. I felt dizzy. You don't have to be alone anymore, it said. That was when I realized it wasn't trying to scare me. It was negotiating. I bolted. The hallway seemed longer than before, narrowing as I ran. My shoulders slammed into peeling wallpaper. Behind me, my own footsteps echoed, perfectly matched. Evan, it called. Slow down. I didn't. I burst through the living room and tripped over a fallen beam, skinning my palm. Pain grounded me just long enough to see it in the doorway. Its outline was wrong. Arms bent backward at the elbows. Head tilted at an angle no spine should allow. Its face was mine, copied with unsettling precision, except the eyes were hollowed out, like someone had scooped the light from them. It lifted a hand. I lifted mine without thinking. It smiled. I dropped my arm immediately, remembering Hollow Signal's warning. Never mirror it. The smile faltered. Good. I scrambled to my feet and ran for the front door. The handle wouldn't turn. I threw my weight against it once, twice. The wood groaned. Behind me, it spoke softly. Say your name. I screamed instead. The door gave way on the third hit, sending me stumbling into daylight. Stopped running until my lungs burned and my legs went numb. I didn't look back. I made it to my truck and peeled out, gravel spraying, hands shaking so badly I almost missed the turn. I didn't feel safe until I crossed town. That's when it hit me. It hadn't chased me. It had let me go, because now it knew how I moved under pressure. It knew which rules I'd learned. And somewhere between the bones and the ceiling handprints, it had decided I was worth keeping track of. I drove for hours, trying to convince myself I'd survey. It was studying me, and I was finally starting to understand that this wasn't about one creature or one town. This was about territory. I sat in a grocery store parking lot afterward, knuckles white on the steering wheel, watching strangers push carts like nothing in the world had changed. I kept expecting my reflection in the windshield to blink out of sync. I kept replaying the way it spoke, the way it waited. Somewhere out there were more houses like that one, more circles of bones, more ceilings marked by crawling hands. And I knew, with cold certainty, that walking away hadn't ended anything. It had only moved the board. For now. Anyway, maybe didn't go home after that. I drove until the sun came up, parked behind a closed hardware store, and recorded this on my phone with my hands still shaking. Every mile felt watched. Every red light felt staged. I kept checking mirrors, expecting to see myself sitting in the back seat, waiting patiently. I started posting audio clips wherever I could. Private groups, old forums, comment sections that hadn't been moderated in years. I stripped out names and locations like Hollow Signal told me, kept my voice low, and warned anyone who would listen. Don't answer your name at night. Don't follow familiar voices. Never mirror it. Never give it your full name. Some people replied with questions, some with jokes. A few sent stories that matched mine too closely to be coincidence. One woman said her brother walked into the woods after hearing their father call. Another guy described handprints on his ceiling and deleted his account the next day. The survivors don't stay visible, that's the part nobody tells you. They either disappear or they learn how to go quiet. Accounts go inactive. Threads get locked. Messages stop mid-sentence. You start recognizing the pattern, the same way you recognize a siren after you've heard too many to keep thinking about the opening of this recording, about my own voice calling from the trees, about how C. Comment sounded. That wasn't rage. That wasn't hunger. That was practice. If you're listening right now, I need you to do something for me. Share anything strange you've experienced. Comment if animals went silent where you live. If someone you know vanished without explanation. If you ever heard your own name spoken from somewhere it shouldn't have been. Even fragments matter. Especially fragments. They rely on isolation. They count on us thinking we're alone. I move every few days now. Cheap motels. Rest stops. Parking lots with cameras. I sleep in my clothes. I keep the lights on. Sometimes I wake up to my phone vibrating with notifications that vanish when I unlock it. Sometimes I hear footsteps outside my door that never reach the hallway. I don't know how many of us are left. I do know that a few voices I trusted have gone silent. Hollow Signal hasn't logged back in. Mark won't answer texts. The woman from Idaho who sent me photos of bone circles stopped replying yesterday. Maybe they got tired. Maybe they got caught. Maybe they learned something they couldn't carry anymore. Whatever this is, it doesn't end cleanly. So if you're out there, listening, remember this. Awareness buys time. Silence gives it ground. And if something starts to sound like me after this, if you hear my voice asking for help, please understand that I wouldn't do that to you. I'm still moving, but it's moving too. And we're running out of places to pretend are safe. I can hear it again. My name, not shouted, not rushed, just carried on the air the same way it was at the beginning, slipping between trees, sliding under doors, settling into the spaces between thoughts. I'm sitting in my truck with the engine off, recording this by dashboard light, watching fog crawl across the windshield like something alive. It's closer now. I've replayed this whole chain of events more times than I can count. The quiet woods, the shape on the road, Mark on my porch, my mother's voice in the hallway, the house with the bones. Every step feels inevitable in hindsight, like once you notice them, they've already been walking beside you for miles. I don't know if there's a way out of this. I do know they learn. They adapt. They remember. I tried changing cars. I tried shaving my beard, wearing different clothes, sleeping in different towns. None of it matters. Whatever followed me from that house doesn't need my face anymore. It already has my patterns. It just said my name again. I keep thinking about all the small moments I ignored, every chance I had to turn around. The diner lights, the radio static, the way dogs stopped barking on my street. I thought monsters announced themselves. I thought danger looked dramatic. It doesn't. It looks like routine. It looks like a tired man driving home, convincing himself tomorrow will feel different. If I could send one thing back through time, it would be this feeling in my chest right now, heavy and unmistakable. Please listen when your instincts finally speak. Now, if you've made it this far, I need you to understand something. This isn't entertainment to me. This is a warning wrapped in a confession. If you recognize any part of this, don't wait. Tell someone. Write it down. Leave markers for the next person who starts noticing the silence. Because once it chooses you, the world keeps going like nothing happened. People buy groceries. Kids ride bikes. Neighbors wave. And you become background noise. I can see movement at the tree line now. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just waiting the way it always does. Patient. Certain. I'm going to end this recording here. Maybe it buys me a few seconds. Maybe it buys you a little more. If something sounds like me after this, please don't answer. As the shadows settle, and the night grows quieter than it should, remember what you heard tonight. These are not just stories. These are warnings. Some accounts vanish forever. Some voices never return. And some are still watching. If you ever hear a voice that sounds like someone you love, or even yourself, in the dark, do not answer. Share your theories. Leave your experiences in the comments. But never, ever follow the voice. Because once it chooses you, the shadows remember your name. This is the Shadow Internet, where every whisper carries danger, and every secret waits in the dark.